Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the NBA Front Office Show. It's Tuesday. I'm Trevor Lane, and joining me is Keith Smith. Keith, I was trying to figure out a way to explain how I feel at this moment. I am completely lost in the woods of playoff permutations, figuring out all the different things that can happen in the standings. At this moment, that horrific scarring scene from the Never Ending Story where the horse gets stuck in the quicksand, that's me right now, because the more I struggle, the more I get into the weeds of trying to figure out all these different tiebreakers and things like that, the deeper I sink into madness. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's I was telling someone the other day that I was like I am just incredibly happy that the Celtics are like that's all done for many reasons, right? I'm very happy that they were good this year and all that stuff, but I'm extremely happy that they are very it is like that's it, right? Like it is a good place. But I'll try to be, when they start fighting back, I'll try to be your Atreyu and pull our tax out of the swamp for you.
I was so glad at the end when that finally happened. Like, that was so
Spoiler
unnecessary
for
to do that to kids.
movie.
Yeah, come on, right? But yeah, I've been lost in the weeds of figuring out all the different potential things that can happen in the playoff seeding, and it's been an experience. So my mind is a little bit frazzled at this point. With that being said, let's get into some news. Karl-Anthony Towns returning for the Minnesota Timberwolves. We need to talk about this one. We've got a lot of other big stories today. We got some stuff about LeBron. Oh boy, we've got some stuff about Monty Williams. We've got Brandon Ingram stuff to get into. We got a lot on today's show, but this is big. Karl-Anthony Towns returning for the Wolves. Massive for them. They can get him back before the playoffs. Again, we're only a few games away from playoff time, but just to get him back on the floor, get into a rhythm, knock off some of the rust, that's going to be critical for a Wolves team that, number one, is trying to hang on to the number one seed in the West. Right now, they're knotted with the Nuggets, but they go ahead on a tiebreaker. And number two, they want to really make some noise this season in the playoffs and have a deep run. They're going to need Karl-Anthony Towns back, healthy, and in rhythm.
Yeah, without a doubt. And those two teams have a big game tomorrow against each other. So that's going to be huge. All we got was a very vague Karl-Anthony Towns is, excuse me, closing in on a return by the end of the regular season. We didn't get a when. There was reports that he's going through full contact practices. He's playing 5-on-5, and he's feeling pretty good. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe that does come tomorrow. If it's, even if it's, hey, if you can only give us 15, 20 minutes, like that's fine, against the Nuggets. I'm sure they would welcome that. But I can't tell you how impressed I am that Minnesota hung in. I really thought when he went down, they would start to slip. And when he went down, the Clippers were still in this for the number one seed. And I really thought, man, Minnesota, after this great season, they might be fourth in the conference. I didn't think they'd fall any further than that. But instead, it was the Clippers who dropped out, and the Wolves have stayed strong and stayed right there atop with the Nuggets, as you've got up on screen. So absolutely, kudos and testament to them for playing so good all the way down the stretch here.
Yeah, they've been fantastic. They played well. They're the one seed right now. I do think that's important to them to finish in the one seed ahead of Denver, to have that home court advantage. So, this is a team that, especially when we talk about defense winning championships and that being so important come the postseason, they've been one of the best defensive teams in the NBA over the course of the season. I think of the three, I've got Denver, of the top three in the West, Minnesota, Denver, OKC. I still have Denver as the top team, as the team to beat and all of that. But after that, kind of in a tier of their own, I've got Minnesota, and that's simply because I think their game, the way they play, is going to translate to playoff basketball a little bit better than the Thunder. And that's not to say I'm down on the Thunder. I don't think they're going to be good. I think they're a tough matchup for anybody. But I do have Minnesota, just in terms of playoff basketball, as having an edge over OKC in the West.
Yeah, and huge credit to you. you believed in this team from the beginning. Before the season, you thought they were going to be good. I don't know. You thought they'd be top of the
Not
conference
to this
good, but
degree. I thought
yeah.
they would be in the mix. I thought they would. I think I predicted they'd be like a 4 seed. I didn't think they'd be
Yeah.
this good.
Now, one of the two of us didn't even think they'd make the play-in tournament, and it wasn't you. So that's we'll leave that right there. But I also didn't know the Grizzlies were going to completely become a tire fire
Correct.
of injuries and suspensions and everything else. So I mean, we kind of knew Ja would be out, but we thought that would all resolve quickly. But yeah, I mean, great season for the Wolves. Now the question is going to be, everyone's going to load up with, well, it doesn't matter if you don't win in the playoffs, right? And this is this group's second run through the postseason, so everybody's going to want to see it now. Like, are you really ready to win? Like, what does it look like? And I still think if they finish one, almost outside of the Kings and probably the Pelicans, if it's the Lakers, the Warriors, the Suns in the 1-8 matchup, I think a lot of people are going to pick the underdog. I just think
They
a
might.
lot of people are going to say, I trust those teams more than Minnesota. And I get it. I get the logic behind that. But I think that's a little unfair to the Wolves and everything they've accomplished so far this season. Like they are 8 to what? It's between 8 and 11 games ahead of those teams for a reason.
Mhm.
Like they've been better than those teams this year. And I hope that doesn't get completely missed.
No, they've been excellent. And look, this is the kind of thing that until you prove it in the playoffs, people are going to be doubtful. It's just the way that it is. Just like it's the same thing we're hearing with the Lakers with D'Angelo Russell. D'Lo can have a great game, and you're going to hear people screaming he's going to disappear in the playoffs. And there's
Yeah.
nothing he can do about that until he gets to the playoffs. It's the same thing with the Wolves. People are going to doubt them until and then they're either going to prove them right in the playoffs or they're going to prove them wrong. And there's nothing they can do about that until they actually get there.
And I think we have collectively extremely short memories in the NBA because I think everybody kind of feels that way about everyone except for maybe the Nuggets, right? Where
Sure.
it's like, well, I can trust the Nuggets because they did it last year, and there's no reason to not believe in the Nuggets. But because it's the same thing with Boston, people are same thing. Like, all right, cool.
Yep.
I mean, I said it all year. They could have gone 80-2, and everyone would have been like, okay, I don't care. Like,
Exactly.
win in the
Yep.
playoffs. Like, it doesn't really matter. And that's good and bad, because the good part of that is that means you've won enough consistently enough that they want more. You're not a fun upstart story where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
cool. Now the bad is sometimes that comes with a whole layer of pressure of nothing you do is good enough, and that
Right.
we've players have talked about it. That starts to build on them and eat at them of, I gotta win, and everybody starts to try to do a little more, and then it just gets very messy. So I'm beyond excited for this week of basketball to see where everything locks in playoff wise, because I think these playoffs are going to set a bunch of teams on a trajectory into the offseason that's going to be really fun to watch too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's jump over here. We'll talk a little bit. Well, let's jump to the Lakers here. LeBron James, according to Brian Windhorst, he believes that LeBron is not going to pick up his player option this summer, with the idea being that he wants to re-sign with the Lakers and get a no trade clause. So, Keith, what do you think about that concept? LeBron getting a no trade clause. Why do you think he would want something like that? And does it make sense for him to not pick up his player option?
Yeah, no trade clauses are extremely rare in the
Yeah,
NBA. True no trade clauses. We've been over the de facto no trade clause is what we generally call it, where it's like a guy's on a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal, but second year is a player option and those kind of things. We know what those are. Those are actually somewhat common. But a true no trade clause, the only one right now in the league, is Bradley Beal. Because in order to get one, you have to have at least 8 years in the league, and you have to have four years with the same team, and you can't get it in an extension. So as we've seen guys sign more and more and more extensions, you can't add it unless it was in the previous deal. So Beal got his because Beal didn't extend. Beal went into free agency, signed a brand new contract with the then Wizards, and went from there. I almost just called them the Bullets, and I have no idea where that came from. Like I don't know what I was thinking there. And then you have like Stephen Curry as an example. Everybody's like, how does Steph not have a no trade clause? Because he's only ever extended. So in LeBron's case, he's in a position to sign a new deal. He meets the just barely meets the 8 years in the league requirement by like 2.5 times. Then he's now got more than enough years with the Lakers, which sounds, I can't believe he's been with the Lakers for as long as he has. Like that part is all, that's just pandemic time screwing everything up where, 1 and 2 and 3 years all combined into like one like year. So why is LeBron asking for it? Because he can. Like, I think this is a way to, hey, I don't want to get to a point in my last year when I'm making $50 million for the team to be like, let's say he gets hurt or it all does finally fall apart. He doesn't want to be in a spot where it's, hey, we're going to trade you to Charlotte because we have a chance to get LaMelo Ball and bring him in along with, I don't know, somebody else, Brandon Miller, and grow the team. And they just want you as the name for the rest of the season. So I think that's where he's just trying to protect himself. And I don't blame him for it. I also wouldn't blame the Lakers if they gave it to him because I don't think there's a world where they're going to trade him anyway. I think if he gets traded, it's going to be, he asks and says, I want to be somewhere else, and the team accommodates that.
Agreed. Yeah, from everything I've heard, that's what it would take for the Lakers to actually trade LeBron James. LeBron would have to go to the Lakers and say, trade me. I do think he's going to sign a new deal with the Lakers this summer. I don't think he's going to leave. Who knows what's going to happen with Bronny, what's going to happen with him in terms of, does he go to the NBA? Does he go to college? I'm leaning he goes back to school. Which school? We don't know, but I'm leaning he goes back to school. So I don't think that's going to be a factor in LeBron's decision-making in terms of him potentially leaving to go play with Bronny. I think he winds up signing a new deal with the Lakers. Now, Windhorst also noted that there's maybe some debate here, or maybe there'll be some negotiation in terms of, is it going to be, say, a 3-year contract? Is there going to be a player option at the end of it, a team option at the end of it, some non-guaranteed money? So that's going to be something else to keep an eye on this summer, is LeBron, the Lakers negotiating. He has until June 29th to make a decision whether or not to pick up his player option. But I would have to imagine they'll start those negotiations pretty early and figure out, how many years do we want this contract to be? What do we want it to look like? And then what does that final year look like? Because could be talking about LeBron in an age 41, 42. LeBron, I mean, that's what we're talking about. And I'm sure the Lakers will probably say, hey, dude, you're going to be 42. We want some non-guaranteed money, or we want the last year to be a team option. LeBron will probably say, hey, I'm LeBron James. I want a player option for that last year. And it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out.
Yeah, I think we have all but removed the whole thought process of random team X drafts Bronny James to get LeBron to sign for whatever they can give him. I think that's out the window. I think as much as I do think he'd like to play with his son in the NBA, I think he has put it into a position where if it happens, great, but I'm not going to manufacture this to happen. Now, yeah, if Bronny's in there and the Lakers have a 2nd-round pick, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little push like, hey, what do you think about picking my kid? And if they're like, fine, it's the last roster spot, whatever, it's, we're good. Maybe they go that direction. But I don't think it's going to be, Charlotte drafts Bronny and he's like, well, I'm out of here. I'm a Hornet now. Like, where that was the storyline for months of he's going wherever Bronny goes. And I just think that's kind of over and done with. I also think it's unlikely. I don't even think Bronny's going to be in this draft. I think he may just say, you know what, I want to do a normal year of college somewhere else away from all of this and do all that. But all that said, with LeBron, a couple of things that stand out. One, you saying like, we're talking about age 41, 42, like it's just bonkers. It doesn't even make sense anymore. The other thing, I was just looking at it. If he re-signs with the Lakers, that'll be his 7th season in LA next year, which is as many years as he was with the Cavs in his first run in Cleveland.
Pretty crazy,
that's crazy, right? Like, that's like, it's crazy that he's not going to, well, I shouldn't say he's not. I'm going to say he's highly unlikely to match his full Cavs run, which was 7 years and 4 years for a total of 11. but he's probably going to get to 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 years with the Lakers. We'll see. It kind of depends on where it's all going. But yeah, just absolutely incredible. And I'm with you. They're going to want protections. He's going to say no. And that's where the dance will begin and all this stuff. And my only real hope is that everybody else says, he's going back to LA. Can we just do free agency and trades and everything like normal people and not wait till LeBron decides on like July 15th what he's doing, and then we start to move? Because that we've just seen in the past, he holds everything up, right? Because everybody has to wait. I would hope everybody's like, this is not the same thing. I also think it may come quicker because I think once he gets off to it's time to start prepping for the Olympics, he's going to want the contract done and finished and all that. Last piece, super important to know, new CBA rules. The minute the Lakers season ends, they can start talking new contract with LeBron. That is a new thing in the CBA. Teams can talk to their own free agents the minute the season ends. So guaranteed by the time the bell rings on June 30th at 6 p.m. Eastern, we're going to know what LeBron James and the Lakers, where they're standing and whether it's, hey, this was really a non-issue. They came to agreement, then off we go. Or there's some tension here and it's a little messy. We're going to have a really good idea when free agency opens.
So 2 things on that. I think, number one, I think that the idea that LeBron is going to hold up free agency, I don't think it's going to happen. And part of that is, I agree with you. I don't think the teams are going to say, hey, we really have a shot at LeBron. I think it's going to be known, hey, he's just going to wind up going back to LA. So I think that's going to, it's not going to be like Kawhi years ago. Like I remember packing for Summer League. And then we're like well into free agency and everybody's still waiting on figuring out what Kawhi's going to do, right? I don't think that's going to happen.
It took an earthquake for him to decide.
It took an earthquake for Kawhi to figure it out. But I don't think that we're going to go down that path. I think teams are going to make their moves in free agency. It's what we've seen more in the last couple of years where free agency hasn't really been held up by any one particular player because teams have a better sense of whether or not they really have a shot at the guy and they're just going and making their moves and off they go. So I don't think LeBron's going to hold up free agency. However, I also don't think ahead of the draft, it's going to come out that, hey, LeBron's staying with the Lakers. I think what's going to happen is LeBron's going to hold their feet to the fire to some degree. He's going to say, hey, you got those 3 first-round picks that are tradable. What are we doing with them? He's going to, metaphorically, right? LeBron's going to have the pen in his hand and he's going to be holding it over the contract and go, so what are we thinking here? How are those draft picks looking? What's happening here? What are you guys doing on the trade front? And then once the Lakers say, oh, we're trading for this guy, he's going to go, okay, cool, and sign. I think he's going to use that leverage for a bit, but I don't think it's going to be a, August 15th, we're still waiting to find out what LeBron does type of thing.
If it is, we'll get a whole summer's worth of content, but that's going to be a slow free agency process. Yeah. And I'm with you on the draft pick thing. It's funny. I was listening to something the other day where they said, what does he owe the Lakers from the standpoint of not making them mortgage their future? And I kind of laughed. And the one host said, he doesn't owe him anything. Like he wants to win a championship again, or multiple championships by the time his career ends. That is his only goal. And in the reality of it is, that's pretty much the Lakers' goal too. Yeah, if you can make a trade and it's a good trade with only sending 2 of the future picks, you do it. But if it takes all 3 to make a really good trade that's going to push you deeper into contention than you may be right now, then you have to swallow hard and do it, and we'll figure it all out later without draft picks and whatever the case may be with all that. And they're let's be real, they're fairly protected by the fact that they have all their other picks in the in between years. So that they're not, it's not like they're completely out of picks. They don't think they're going to do any kind of trade where, hey, it's every pick we can give you. So all 3 of them plus pick swaps and all this other stuff. I think teams are going to be extremely cautious of doing things like that. And I don't think that's where this will go. So only time will tell, and we'll see if that is how it happens.
All right. While on the topic of the Lakers, this is, very quick, easy, no surprise here. D'Angelo Russell, Brian Windhorst believes he's going to decline his player option Windhorst and everyone else in the world assumes that D'Angelo Russell is going to decline his player option. He's had a fantastic season for the Lakers. He's really been phenomenal. Keith, you and I have talked about it on here, so I won't spend a ton of time on it. But essentially, even if, and I don't think this is going to happen, but even if he just signs a new deal at his current number, which would be about 18 million and change, he would at least not pick up his player option so he can extend the number of years he has on his contract. I do think he's going to get a bump. He's going to get a raise. But again, he's had a phenomenal season. This is the reason why there's a player option in the contract from his perspective. It's so he can opt out and cash in after he has a big year, and that's exactly what he's done.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the Lakers got him at a really nice number for this year, and D'Lo's protection in that whole process was, if we go back to roughly, 9 months or so ago when this was all going down in the beginning part of July, it was they're only signing him to a number that's tradable. And he's going to get traded, and whether it's for Kyrie Irving or any number of other players that have come up, and his protection was, well, I want the player option one, then I can control things to a point, because he did give up his no trade clause in that. And that was also another thing that because now we talked about no trade clause earlier before with LeBron, players can negotiate that away now. Even if you do get the de facto one, you can say, no, I won't block a trade. And D'Lo is probably the highest profile guy to do it so far. Didn't end up mattering. They didn't trade him, obviously, but he gave that option up. And that was, again, part of getting the player option was, hey, we're going to give you full control over this. But no, anytime in this year, while you're playing at 17.5 million or so, we may trade you and then figure it out in your new team. And instead it turned into, he's been, I would say, their third most important player on the team this season. And he's played really well. So now it's come down to, all right, what happens here? And I'm with you on, even if he opts out and resigns, it's probably going to be, maybe he gets just kind of the standard bump to like 20 million or something, but it's going to be right within range of where he's at, but he'll add on a couple more years. And I think what you're going to see him and maybe a couple other guys do, it's going to be, how long is LeBron signing for? Okay, match me to that. Just in that way, because D'Lo's only 28. Like, he's not 34 years old and on his last contract. Like, he should have a couple more, one more contract at least after this one in him. So I think he may look at it and say, what's LeBron doing? Match me to that as far as years and options and other things go. And I think the idea behind that is, hey, if it's going great, I'll stick around then. But if LeBron moves on, we go. And I think if you're Lakers, you're kind of looking at it and saying, we're okay with that too. Because whenever LeBron goes, there's some form of reset coming anyway. Just it has to happen. So this is a chance for us. If we really don't want that contract or that player, we can kind of reset easier without being locked into fully guaranteed money.
My prediction on D'Lo, and we'll see if it comes true, it's 3 years, 65 million with a player option on the final year. That's my prediction.
Yeah, sounds
about what it ultimately looks like.
I think that's in range. I mean, it maybe could be a little higher, could be like 70 million, but that's quibbling over, what's a few million between good friends.
Exactly. All right. Speaking of what's a few million, Monty Williams says, I will not be giving back a few $1 million. He's not open to a buyout with the
few millions.
Many millions. He got signed that big deal last summer. Is he still the highest paid coach in the NBA?
I don't think so. Well, maybe
Steve Kerr's extension makes him the highest, right?
Yeah, I think Kerr and Pop both got more per year money. I think in total, because Williams' contract was so long, was it 6 or 7 years, which is completely unheard of. Almost all coach contracts are what we call a 3-1. So it's a 4-year deal with a team option on the last year. Anything longer than that is, kind of unheard of. So, but that's what the Pistons gave Monty, and they gave him a boatload of money to sign it too. So
I was thinking about this, him not being open to a buyout with the Pistons. First of all, I don't know how serious the Pistons would be about buying him out of his contract. He's been there 1 year, and they're already like, hey, let's move on. I've had a lot of fans who've said, is his heart in it and all of that. But if I was Monty Williams, I also wouldn't be open to a buyout, because what's the point, like how would that benefit you? Typically, if a team is going to fire a coach, the way the team recoups money is when that coach goes and signs with another team. If they do, then they get that offset that's going to bring back a little bit of money. If you're Monty Williams, if the Pistons really want to get rid of you, cool. You can pay me for 6 years and I can decide what I want to do. I can go sit on a beach for the next 6 years, or I can go eventually join up with another team and then you'll get something back. But otherwise, he's got a head coaching job. There's no reason for him to want out of this deal right now. He got a boatload of money, and coach buyouts are pretty uncommon for that reason. Like for a player, okay, the clock is ticking. I really want to get to a team that can win a championship, all that kind of stuff. For coaches, it just doesn't make sense to consider a buyout unless he decides I can't work for this team anymore. For whatever reason, I need out. Otherwise, there's no reason for him to give up anything for the Pistons here. Yeah,
without a doubt. I mean, I look at it the same way I look at it with a player, as far as you gave him the money, like you have to deal with it. That's just how it is. And to your point, if you want to fire him and then hope somebody else hires him as a coach and that's how you recoup, great, go. But I think it is I think this was one of those stories, like where it's like I mean I get it. Like we have no indication that, although how very, very loud Pistons fans have been about basically get rid of everybody in a leadership position there.
Right.
We don't have any indication that ownership or the front office wants to move Monty Williams. Mm-hmm. There's been nothing towards that line there at all. I just wrote their offseason preview for Spot Track, and it's really messy, because the hard thing is what's probably best for them is make some minor signings that'll make them slightly more competitive, but to be a bad team again one more year, then that way they can go get Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey or one of the guys at the top of the 2025 draft who would really fit in well with that young core. But I think it is, instead, we're in a spot where it's going to be, they're probably going to chase some real upgrades, I think, because I just think there's so much loudness and impatience. And my worry is, they may be better. They may even be 41-41 and pushing for a play-in spot for a couple years. But then what? Then what happens after that? Now all of a sudden, now it's Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren and Thompson and maybe Ivy or whatever. We've re-signed all these guys. They're super expensive. We don't have any cap space, and we can't get meaningfully better because we went out and signed all these veterans to these weird contracts. And it's just a really tough spot to be in. And that's what happens when you kind of mismanage and bungle the first few years of a rebuild. If you're not showing promise by the time you're kind of shining star of your rebuild, which was Cade Cunningham, is looking like he's better, you often see teams go into a place where they make a bunch of moves that are very short-sighted, and they're very short-term moves that they pay off in the short term, but long-term, it just gets super messy.
Yeah, and that's certainly a problem that the Pistons are now potentially staring down here. I don't know. I'm assuming Monty, he's back next year. He's not. I don't think he's actually going anywhere. I'd be so surprised if they made that move right now. That's just, I mean, fans will get on teams a lot of times for being cheap. Trust me, I've brought up the point many, many times. We were hearing it last year with the Lakers. Like, can the Lakers move on from Darvin Ham? Well, a lot of teams don't want to pay a coach for 3 years to not coach for them, right? Like it takes something pretty. It would be crazy for the Pistons to say, and I don't know if he has a team option on the final year of his deal or what that looks like, but it would be pretty crazy for the Pistons to say, hey, we're going to pay him for 5 or 6 years to not coach for us. I don't see them going down that path.
Crazy. Yeah, I'm with you. That'd be nuts.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Brandon Ingram, the Pelicans, they badly need him back. You look at where they're at in the standings right now. They're clinging to the 7th seed, but who knows? They've got a tough schedule. But there's no timetable right now for his return. The Pelicans did pick up a win. Zion's been playing great, but this is a team that badly needs Brandon Ingram back in action, especially for the postseason if they're going to make any kind of run here. And right now, while he is making progress, there's still no timetable for his return, and the season ends on Sunday, Keith.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing. We're we kind of talked about it with Karl-Anthony Towns before of when you say by the end of the regular season, well, you're running out of runway here. The end of the regular season is almost upon us. We've got 5 game days left because there's no games on Saturday. So everybody's got either 3 or 4 games to play, and that's it. We are right up against it. So the good news is it sounds like he's close. He's practicing. He's doing more stuff. So my guess is probably, again, much like we said with Towns, maybe not tonight or tomorrow, but probably Friday, Sunday. Maybe he plays in one or both of those games. And that's kind of your, all right, hopefully you knock the rust off. And we'll see if they, as you said, they get that big win over the Suns over the weekend. So we'll see if they can get themselves into the top 6. Right now they're out, but still, 4 games to play. So that's going to be a battle the whole way through.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be, like I said, Keith, I am lost in the mire of the Western Conference playoff seeding and trying to figure out, because all these teams essentially play each other over the next few days too, which is going to be beautiful, glorious chaos. And my hope is that nothing is decided on Sunday.
Yeah.
I hope that everything is still up in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll be very, very little as far as top 6 teams. And it's funny because we're getting the every day the NBA puts out the clinching scenarios.
Yeah.
And they're like so incredibly complex right now because it's like
it really is.
If this team wins and this happens and we have a redo of the eclipse and this and this and this and it's like all this stuff. So yeah, I think it's going to be pretty interesting to watch. There's also a lot of stuff going on with lottery positioning, like pre-lottery positioning at the bottom. There's a handful of teams that are, looking at, where are they going to land with that. So that's been kind of fun to monitor as well. So yeah, we get a lot of stuff happening over the next few days. And it's, like I said, again, I'm super happy that the Boston games are completely meaningless and I can just kind of float in and out of them as I need to. Because there's so many other games that are worth watching right now. Like Celtics Bucks tonight, I don't even know what that's going to look like. Like I think there's a good chance Boston, Porzingis and Horford are both questionable. We'll see if they even play or not. And I think there's a good chance we get to the second half and Boston's like, all right, we played all our guys. And they treat it almost like a preseason game, where it's like all of our regulars are out and they're not going to play anymore. And then we'll see if that's enough to get Milwaukee a win. They've lost 4 in a row. Like it's funny.
They really need to win.
Man, they are like telling like the Magic, the Knicks, the Cavs, like, hey, come get the 2 seed. And the Magic, Knicks, and Cavs are like, nah, we're good. Like we'll win a game, lose a game, win a game, lose a game. But it's gonna be tough.
Do you think teams are trying to avoid Philly, and that's why they don't want the 2 seed? Like, is that really a thing? Like, Embiid is back. Let's not move up, because the teams the Bucks have lost to, Keith. Losing to. Look at this. They've lost to. They lost to the Knicks. Okay, the Knicks are they're a quality team, but the Raptors, the Grizzlies, the Wizards.
Right there. Like,
what on earth is happening here? Are they trying to drop out of the 2 seed, or is this just they're just playing bad? Are they bored and they're waiting for the playoffs? I don't understand it, but the Magic are a real threat right now. I don't know what the tiebreaker looks like between Orlando and Milwaukee off the top of my head.
They have 2 games left against each other.
So Orlando could very well wind up the 2 seed. Yeah. Does Milwaukee not want the 2 seed for some reason?
Yeah. Normally I would say seeding shenanigans are a very real thing, but I think the problem is, tell me where Philly's going to be. Is Philly going to be 7? Are they going to end up in 6? Like, are they going to lose and end up in 8? That's part of the issue. Is you can't, if you're 1 or 2, it's a challenge to try to lock in because you don't even know who's going to be there. And like I've said all along, let's say Milwaukee says, we don't really want to be 2 because we don't want to play Philly. Let's use that as the example. Sure. And then let's say Milwaukee loses their way down to, let's just say it's 4th. And they're in an extremely tough series with, let's say it's the Cavs, right? Where it could be back and forth. And then let's say Philly loses to the Heat, and then Philly gets upset by the Bulls, and they don't even make the playoffs. Now you look like idiots, right? Because you put yourself in a tougher position to win. Or the other thing is, what if they said, yeah, we're trying to get down to 3 because we don't want to play Philly. Philly's like, that's cute. We're trying to get up to 6. And now you end up playing them anyway.
Yeah.
I think maybe Friday, definitely by Sunday, we may have more clarity on where teams are going to be. So I think that will be a position where we may definitely see some stuff happening where teams are positioning for seeding. I just think, as crazy as it sounds, with only a few days left in the season, it's just too early to try to play those games.
So, like I said, my hope is that going into the day Sunday, nothing is decided. I hope there's still a lot in the air going into the up in the air going into the day Sunday. But I also say, Keith, when I particularly looking at the West, but to a degree in the non-Boston East too. I think there's two things that are true. Number one, I think playoff opponent matters more this season than perhaps we've ever seen before. Like matters more than we want to be the 2 seed, we want to be the 3 seed, we want to be the 4 seed. Who you play in the first round matters more than what spot you finish in, because there is so much parity now in the NBA, and matchups are going to matter. Styles make fights, all of that. I'll also say, because it's so close this season, it's maybe more difficult than ever before to manipulate which team that you get in round one or whatever. Try to manipulate your landing spot to your path, because like you said, you could take your way to third and inadvertently wind up against the team that you were trying to avoid anyway. So again, I think it's more important. The matchups are more important this year than ever before, more important than the spot that you finish in. And number two, I think it is more difficult to manipulate it to get the matchup that you want than we've seen before.
Yeah, it is. That's one of the fun advents of the play-in tournament that I think got kind of not necessarily really like an unintended consequence, right? Like the consequence was, let's give a couple more teams something to play for deeper into the season, just so teams aren't completely bailing out by the time we get to the trade deadline. We want teams in this all the way to the end with a chance to play. And for the most part, it's worked out. I mean, the East wrapped up earlier because the bottom of the East is so god awful. But the West, the Rockets only went out just a couple days ago. So they played all the way into the beginning part of April, meaningful basketball. And then I think that was the intended consequence. The unintended is, yeah, you can't mess around at the top of the conference because you don't really know who you're going to get to. So I think it is, I think for the most part, my approach would be, one, if I know I'm in, which all those teams know, I want to be healthy first. That's first and foremost. And then we're just going to take care of business and let things fall where they may. Like it's, I can't do anything to influence it anyway, and it may backfire on me. So let's just keep it moving.
Exactly. All right, let's get to this. Klay Thompson wants to re-sign with the Warriors. No surprise there, but there's a bit here that he's going to prioritize his mental health. What's the meaning of all of that, Keith?
Yeah, so I listened to it. He did Draymond Green's podcast, and it was good. They talked. It was a good listen because these are two guys who've been together for more than a decade and talked all about kind of everything there. And Klay said the beginning of the year, his role and his playing time and his contract were all weighing on him. And he said it took about 4 heart-to-heart conversations with Steve Kerr before he finally said, "I just need to play and have fun. Like, I just need to have fun the rest of the season. Let the rest of it take care of itself." And I think what was interesting, though, was then he said, but yeah, of course, I'm thinking about my contract. My preference is to re-sign with the Warriors, but I'm going to prioritize my mental health. So I'm guessing if it's, hey, I'm going to continue to go, if I re-sign with the Warriors, I'm going to continue to go through, maybe I'm a starter, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm out there at the end, maybe I'm not. He may say, forget it. I'm going to go play somewhere else where I know what my role will be, and we'll go from there. So I'm really curious. My guess is it just gets done with the Warriors. I think that will trump all. And I think his reemergence here late, he's been really good over the last probably month or two for the Warriors, and kind of in a big spot when Andrew Wiggins was out and some other guys were injured and not playing. He's been kind of a stabilizing force. So I think it's probably one of those, your role's pretty well safe here. Maybe there becomes a handful more games where you come off the bench, but you're always going to play. You're always going to have minutes. And yes, you'll be on the floor at the end of close games if need be. And I think that'll probably win out. And then it'll probably be something like the Warriors saying, hey, what do you think about $25 million or something like that?
Right.
Right. That sounds pretty good. Well, let's do it. So it may, though, we may be more to the year basis now with Clay, where it is, I'm going to do a year, and then he can figure it out at the end of the year. They can figure it out at the end of the year and go from there. We generally hit that point with players at his like point in their career, I guess their career arc.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably what we're going to ultimately see happen. Maybe it even ends up being like a 1+1 or something like that, but probably like a 1-year deal. And yeah, I would be so surprised. It would be weird, Keith. It would be like Hakeem Olajuwon in a Raptors jersey, and Patrick Ewing in a Magic jersey. Things or in a Sonics
right?
jersey. What's that?
The picture of the two of them guarding
Yeah.
each other, Olajuwon and Shaq, but they're in or Olajuwon and Ewing, and they're in Raptors and Magic jerseys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. It would be weird to see Klay Thompson in any other jersey.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I kind of don't want it. Like when you get this close,
it's so rare.
But I also respect the fact that if he feels he'll be much happier and better off somewhere else, I respect that too. He's earned it. He's just deep into his career. Like, good for him. A lot of people keep throwing out the Magic may throw like a huge sum of money at him. I just don't see it. Like, it doesn't. That would really be against their MO. But maybe there's something I'm missing. I just don't. They haven't operated like that to this point. And I just kind of don't see that being a thing. Other guys who are on the market that are shooters, 100%. I can see Orlando being all in on Clay. That one just seems a little weird to me.
All right, let's go here. Finish up with this. Carrillo for life wins the front office NCAA bracket. You and I did not see where I finished. I'm assuming very low, but
I'll tell you right now, I did not finish very high either. I finished tied for 24th. Tied for 24th. You, my friend, were 48th.
There was very little strategy. Not to say strategy would have made it any better for me. I went through. I clicked through and let the chips fall where they may. So I finished pretty low. But we got to. Did he get the final? Did he get UConn winning?
He did. Yeah. So it was down to him and another guy. I think it was Billy Reed. They were the only two that could win because he had UConn, and this other bracket. Billy Reed had Purdue, and it was going to be whoever had won the game was going to win the bracket. So there were 15 people picked UConn in it, and he won by 20 points. So just a couple of correct selections for Carrillo or Carrillo for life. So let us know if that was you, and you can send me an email, and you can give us a rant, a question, whatever it is, and we'll read it here on the show as long as it's appropriate. Even if you want to come on and say go Lakers, if you're a Lakers guy, that's fine. I'll even read it since you won, and then I'll go throw up and brush my teeth after. But we'll happily do that. That's your prize for winning. So reach out. My email's in my bio on X. You can find it there, KeithPSmith78@gmail.com. If you need it, if you don't have Twitter X, that's how you can get in touch, prove that it's you, and then we'll let you go. So, last year's winner, I think, wasn't he in? I want to say he was in like South Korea or Japan.
Something like that.
He won, and he's like, I don't really have anything to say, but and then he just went on to say he likes the show. So, which we'll take that too. That's also very nice.
Well, whatever you want, we'll take it.
There it is.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap things up for today. We do appreciate you guys for joining the show. Make sure that you subscribe to the NBA Front Office Show. Also, check out the Basketball Bulletin, which is our Substack. Some great stuff going up there. So go check that out as well. Put the link in the description down below. Till tomorrow, everybody. See ya and stay safe.